I'm RVindas. I'm a fellow student in FS 575, and I'm also a member of Group 2. And for my project this semester, I've decided to focus on decreasing my family's grocery spending. And in the define phase of this project, I'm going to talk to you guys about the project overview, some preliminary data that I looked at, and the project charter. So that includes things like the problem statement, the goals, the project scope, and a timeline. So in this phase of the project, I looked at the time frame in the past 7 months just to get an idea of some spending trends. Those 7 months are January 1st up until August 1st. So ideally, I would have liked to look at about a year's worth of data, but unfortunately, I changed banks in December, and because of that, my data is no longer available, and that was our primary bank. Either way, I was able to organize the data that I had into 16 spending categories, which are below. So you'll see that I highlighted the ones that are related to food. That's groceries and household items, and restaurants and entertainment. For the purposes of this project, really we'll be focusing on groceries and household items, but I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about the restaurants and entertainment category as well, and what I see kind of happening there. So those 16 categories, I classified them even further into some subcategories, which I won't go all the way into, but again, the two food-related ones here are groceries and restaurants. So this Pareto chart looks at the overall spending that we had in the past 7 months. And if you look at the top 4 or top 5 categories, you'll say those aren't even food related in your number 1 and number 3 spots. However, those are things that we do consider to be fixed. So our housing and our taxes, just due to my husband's employment, and our mortgage, they're just things that are not going to be able to change. They're not considered variable. So if you take those two out, and you're just left with the groceries and household items and the restaurants and entertainment in the number 1 and the number 2 spots. And you'll see that they do take up the bulk of our spending as we hypothesized. So this sunburst chart also looks at the actual amount of subcategory spending within those broad categories. So if you look at the groceries and household items, groceries does take up the majority of that category's spending. And then the restaurants and entertainment, restaurants take up the majority of that category's spending. So by looking at this chart, you're probably thinking, do they do anything else but eat in that family? I can promise you that we do, yes, but we do really love food. So to even emphasize this more, we looked at our actual percentage allocated on a monthly basis per category. So this is really just to see if there were any months where we had data that was very skewed in the grocery category that might have caused us to see such a high spending there. However, if you'll see, typically we spend about the same percentage of our monthly spending on groceries every month. January does jump out. That's because the housing category isn't there in that month, just due to our closing costs on our house and things like that. We didn't have a formal mortgage payment in that month. So it is a little skewed there, but the actual spending is in line with the rest of the months there. So you'll see groceries and household items taking up the bulk, and restaurants and entertainment also accounting for a good bit of the percentage there. So I'll walk you through my project charter now. A little bit of background information. So my husband and I are very novice in budgeting. We've never made a habit out of it, especially not on a monthly basis. And we really noticed that we're not putting a lot into our spending, our savings account. And just doing a quick review of our bank statements, we saw that the majority of what's popping up there is grocery and food related spending. And our average grocery spend is actually $775 per month, which is way too much. And we feel like a more reasonable amount would be somewhere between $450 to $500. Another thing that jumped out is that our average restaurant spending is also $410 per month. That's over half of our grocery spend, so that could be possible to reduce there. It's important for us to get these under control, because if we continue spending like this and we continue not budgeting, we're not going to be able to contribute to our savings, and we won't be able to reach our financial goals. So for this project, I'll be focusing on the grocery category. That includes things like food and basic hygiene, things like toilet paper and cleaning materials like bleach. But a gray area here is the restaurant spending category. It's also food related, and just due to that average number that we found, it's a high percentage of our monthly income, and we really want to bring that into scope, I think. It's still in progress, but definitely in consideration. The boundary of this project is the project just doesn't apply to any non-grocery or food-related expenses right now. As you'll see in my expected benefits, that's something that I would like to see change. I want to eventually be able to apply this methodology to other categories as well. So the goals for this project, as far as improvement goes, really use that DMAIC methodology to reduce our grocery spending by about 40% per month. That's about $300. Look at some other areas that could be improved within our monthly spending data just for the future, and also just to get a better understanding of budgeting. Some of the benefits I expect to get out of this, just really allocating those savings from our reduced food spending towards our financial goals that we have for ourselves, getting out of debt, paying off some loans that we have. Creating a habit out of budgeting is another big thing, because really that's the start of our control there, is having a habit and really taking a look at this on a monthly basis. We'd like to look at other areas of financial improvement as well. We might have some obstacles here, so I might get overwhelmed with the amount of data just in doing the preliminary data. There's a lot of it there. It hasn't been looked at for a very long time, so that could be something that's overwhelming. Could have trouble finding the best tool for our data analysis, so I will be looking at different programs and applications, and even Excel and how it can help me. Upcoming holidays, they might tempt us spending more on food. They're happening. Thanksgiving and Christmas are big food eating holidays, so we might be tempted to spend more. So as far as the timeline goes, right now I'm in the define phase, and I've talked you through that. In the measure phase, I'm going to be looking at some more data that's available. I'm going to develop a plan for collecting that data, and again, identify those best tools. In the analyze and improve phase, I'm going to really be determining that root cause for that overspending, developing a plan and implementing that plan, and finally, to complete the project, I'm going to review that plan progress based on the data that I get. I'll summarize the results and hopefully develop a plan for continuous improvement. Do you have any questions?